What's up, y'all? I'm Lady, and welcome back to another video. Today I am here to discuss part 2 of Cane River by Lalita Tademy. It is going pretty good for me still. I am enjoying the drama, the family history, and all of those things that usually make up a pretty good read for me. I would like to shout out those who were able to join me when the first video aired, and that is Randy's World and My Cozy Little Library, as well as my sister. We were able to chat in the comment section after the video aired, and I got to get your thoughts on the book so far, and I'm grateful. I'm glad you all took the time to join me. I see that some people have already finished the book, and that is awesome, because if you finished the book, that means you really enjoyed it, because in mine, this is close to a 500-page book, and we're 2 weeks in, or a little bit over 2 weeks in, and you've already finished it. So that's great. For those of you who are still making your way through, of course, just read at your own pace with this thing. Take your time with it. For me, 2025 is my year of intentional reading, and it is my hope that I experience a lot of 4 and 5-star reads this year. So I think that'll mean that I'll read books slower, just like I'm reading this one. And that means that I may read less this year, but I'm totally okay with that, because if I have a 4 or 5-star year of reading, that would just make my heart sing. Okay, so far we're starting off the year pretty good. So I have my notes here on this piece of paper because I wanted to make sure I covered everything. Okay, as we get into this discussion, I'm going to do my best to not give any spoilers, but again, this is part 2 of the book, so I can't make any promises, but I will do my best. This section picks up right where the last section left off. Philomene is now in love and is planning to marry Clement. They are actually allowed to have a ceremony, which is a big deal. If you remember Suzette, that was something that her mother wanted, but didn't get a chance to have, and neither did her grandmother. So we can already see that Philomene's life is already a little different than the women before her. And I just absolutely loved Clement. I loved his response when Philomene asked him about her gift, her glimpsings, as they call it. And his response to that was just so sweet. It really showed his love for her. And it was just, a wonderful thing to read. Considering the circumstances of these people's lives, being enslaved, they were still falling in love, marrying, and having kids, which is just wild to me to even think about. In the midst, though, and I'm going to roll my eyes, because in the midst of all this happiness, what Philomene is experiencing, we have Narcy, who is lurking around, okay? He's lurking around, watching her, and just, gives me the ick and gives Philomene the ick as well. If you look at the family tree in the front of the book, you already know that Clement and Philomene don't get to have that happily ever after that we really just wish they could have, and it's because of Narcisse. He, comes in, and I won't go into those details. If once you get to it, you'll know what I'm talking about. He comes in, something happens with Clement, and then Philomene must make a decision, right? So a lot happens in part 2. It covers about 20 to 25 years of time. We experienced the Civil War during this part of the book. The family has to deal with diseases such as yellow fever and cholera. all of those things wreak havoc, on this small plantation when it shows up, right? And it really makes me think about, medicine and healthcare, what they could have done at that time. And really, they did the best they could, when diseases and things like that show up on the plantation. And most importantly, I feel in this section is the family experiences freedom. Philomene, her grandmother, her mother, Philomene's children, I should say, experience freedom when the war comes to an end. And I just always, whenever I read these type of books and think about what the transition was like, it just really amazes me. And it just really shows the resilience of our people, because they were literally given nothing but their freedom, and they made it work. And so, yeah. Also, some long lost relatives that show up, and I definitely won't discuss those because they would for sure be spoilers. One of which made my heart sing. That was such a sweet moment in the book. And then another one, my mouth just dropped when that part came about another relative that we thought was gone, and my mouth just dropped. I couldn't believe it. So that was very interesting. One of the other great things we saw is in part 2 is Suzette falls in love. And I won't say with who, that would be a spoiler for sure. But the bad thing about it, when she falls in love, she still has to deal with the thought of not being good enough. Now that freedom is there for everyone, you still have those people of color who were free before the war, who just thought they were better classed, than those who were previously enslaved. And I looked at, in the discussions, questions at the back of the book, and 2 questions stood out to me. So I'll read them and let me know in the comment section what you think about this. It says, Cane River was a community made up of French planters, slaves, and gens de couleur libre, and I can't speak French, or free people of color who had accumulated a great deal of land and wealth and were just as likely to be slave owners as their white neighbors. How do you think the free people of color justified playing a willful role in their kinsmen's oppression? Because you think about it, they were slave owners. And my answer to that is they didn't truly see those people who were enslaved as their kinsmen. I always thought that in order for the institution of slavery to exist and to be as cruel as we know that it was, these people, the oppressors, had to see these people as less than. They had to see these people as subhuman, which is crazy, when you think about it. But that's how they probably justified it. And more so, we hear the argument a lot that, it was just the times we were living in. So we were living and doing what was justified and what was legal at the time. So I have definitely heard that argument as well. And then the other one says, the free people of color considered themselves neither black nor white. Can you think of any parallels in today's society? We definitely see that in today's society, right? Where those people, mixed race people, unless they are of darker skin, a lot of times we do see they tend to lean towards those people who have privilege. That's how I'll put it. They allow themselves to, sit in and rest in and take advantage of that privilege that comes with being lighter skinned. For Philomene, I believe she's not. She even mentions that she's, of course, she doesn't look, white passing, but she's not dark either. Unlike her child that comes along and that we will read about, Emily, as we get further in the book. So like I said earlier, we know that Philomene does not get her happily ever after with Clement. And I know this is a spoiler, like I said. We can't, I'll do my best, but hey, we're in part 2, okay? Watch with caution, okay? So she's forced to make some hard decisions. And basically what Philomene does, she decides to use what she got to get what she wants, right? Narcisse is, after her. It's really nothing she can do about it. And she decides to use what little power, what little advantage she has, and that's her gift of sight. Her glimpsings, as she calls it, and she uses that as a way of controlling the situation. And I never really thought about that, how some women of that time, use those white men that were coming around and to get land, to get houses and things like that. I mean, I'm not mad at it. I know that was their situation at the time. That was the best thing she could do. And she even had this conversation with her mother. He's coming around. What am I to do? I don't have any control like I wish I did. And so I'm going to get something out of this situation. Even though she makes the best out of her situation, it also comes up the idea of legitimate heirs. Narcisse, after years of being with Philomene, he still wants what he calls an legitimate heir. And so that really made me think about the connection, how there are so many people who are connected and don't know it because these white men had their black family and their white family, and a lot of times the lines were never crossed. They never saw, never knew each other. And then in instances like this, they absolutely knew, but just there was no coming together in those situations, which is really crazy to think about, right? This chapter ends with a bang, okay? The final showdown between Philomene and Narcisse, you got to read it for yourself, of course. But it was a lot. It got heated. But in the end, Philomene, I feel she got what she wanted. And it shows her resilience. I mean, many people would probably have something to say about, the path that she chose, but I'm of the mindset of like, what other choice did she have? What do you think about that? I absolutely love the idea of the entire family coming together after freedom, living on their own land, pretty much having a compound where everybody had their own place to live. And I thought about so many generations under one roof, because once Emily comes along, there are 4 generations of women, and they're all living together, all striving, all working together to, make things happen for the family. And I just find that very interesting. And they're able to do that because everybody started having kids so young. So it wasn't that far in age between mom and daughter, maybe 12 to 15, 16 years apart each generation was. So they were able to live and thrive together. As I mentioned in the first discussion, colorism is a major theme of this book. This family bloodline pretty much is bleached by the time we get to Emily. We know that Emily could easily be white passing, and Philomene and her grandmother and her mother and grandmother do their best to make sure that Emily stays out of the sun. You know, colonizers, they really did a number on our people. And I hate to quote Kanye in 2025, but I truly believe, like he said, they made us hate ourselves and love their wealth. Love their wealth and everything that comes with it. And at this time, I truly feel that these women just saw the lighter skin as an advantage. You know, it was used for generational advancement in their eyes. One quote in the book, Emily is a kid out playing in the sun, and Philomene told her, you know, girl, get in the house, get out of that sun. That sun will make you common. And, you know, they're trying to move up in the world that they're living in. So, I mean, I can't be, you know, mad about it. That's just how they felt about it. In the author's note, Lalita Tademy mentions that her ancestors were nudging her as she was working in her corporate job and researching for this book. She felt nudges and even had experiences from her ancestors. And she mentions that Philomene was the most persistent and wanting her and pushing her. And after reading part 2, I see why. Philomene had a story, okay? She had a story to tell. And really, this is one like none other that I have read. And I've read plenty of family sagas coming from this time period. And I just never really saw the colorism. It comes usually from the outside in, but this family has really, held on to it because that's what they feel is better. So I could see or imagine Philomene pushing this author, hey, tell my story. And shout out to cousin Gertie. We get little snippets. In 1975, her cousin Gertie wrote down this family history for Philomene and those that were coming after her. And Philomene got to talk to her cousin, and her cousin wanted her to write this story and to put it out there for people. And so her writing and the little snippets we get from her telling the story in the book is, really priceless for Lalita Tademy to have when writing this book. Okay, so now we are on to Emily's story. At the start of part 3, Emily, she's already an adult. Her childhood has been nothing like the women before her, and she has been educated, right? Which is a big deal. And so we get to, move into her story in part 3. And just from what we got so far in part 2, it's not shaping up in the best way for Emily either. But she, again, is a woman of her time. So that is all I have to discuss about part 2. Like I said, a lot's happened in that part of the book. I'm excited to see what else happens. Our third and final discussion of Cane River will take place on Sunday, February 2nd at 2 p.m. It'll be another pre-recorded video, but I will premiere it so that we can discuss and chat live in the discussion. Okay? That is it for me, y'all. In the comment section, if you are not able to chat once the video airs at any time. Drop your comments. Let me know how's it going. If you've already finished the book, please let me know what was your final rating. I want to know now. You don't have to wait until the end to let me know. That's it for me in this one, y'all. I'm Lady, and I will see you all in my next video. Bye, y'all.